I'm really excited today because we're brewing Cezve coffee. In this country, we know this as Turkish or Greek style coffee because people from that region have brought that culture to Australia, and that's the way they brew coffee in those parts of the world. Also, it's popular in the Balkans, in Africa, and the Middle East to brew coffee like this, traditionally called Cezve. What I really love about this brewing method is that the coffee is trapped inside the water and it's just brewing away, and then afterwards when we pour the brewed coffee off, there's no paper filter, no mesh filter, it's just the coffee in its rawest form. This method to brew coffee is hundreds of years old, and I can see why people are so passionate about it. Now, the recipe to brew that I have found that works extremely well is 7 grams of coffee to 70 grams of water. And now, as I'm going to brew for 2 people, I'm going to do 14 grams of coffee to 140 grams of water. So take a look at the grind size. It is super fine. It's almost like talcum powder. It's way finer than sand, and with my coffee grinder, I just set it to the maximum fine that it can go. On a hand mill, you can do these on Paulex grinders, works perfectly fine. Just what we need to be doing is almost grinding to a pulverized coffee grind. So I'm going straight in to a set of scales, tear that off, and I'm going to put the coffee inside. So now, tear again, and I've preheated water to 65 degrees. I'm stopping at 140. At this point, it's super important to give the coffee a stir. I'm going to do a north-south action, and I'm going to do it 12 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So we want to make sure that the coffee and the water has been combined, and it's almost like a pre-infusion that an espresso machine goes through, or like a pre-wet or a bloom that we do in a V60 style. So we want to make sure that everything is immersed and ready to go, but we don't want to over stir the coffee, because the stirring is acting to draw out the flavor and produce coffee extraction. And this method gets a lot of natural extraction because of how fine we grind. So from this point, we're going straight onto the heat source. Now, we want to make sure that we give high heat to the Cezve. We're going to start a timer. At around 1 minute, we're going to start to see some action and some coffee crema starting to develop inside. And you can start to hear that heat really developing. So I'm just going to back the heat off just to about 75–80%. At around 2 minutes, the coffee will start to almost boil inside, and we're about 95, 96, 97 degrees max here. So at that point, we take the Cezve off the heat source, turn off the heat, and we're ready to enjoy our coffee. I haven't found it important to sit and allow the fines in the brew to settle, but what I do find super important is that serving the coffee in these smaller demi-tasse style cups really holds those fines towards the bottom of the cup and allows us to enjoy the coffee without having that grittiness about it. One thing that you might have heard before is a notion of boiling or brewing this style of coffee 3 times over. I think that's a bit of a faux pas, and was done in countries where they would either add sugar or spices to the brew to counteract the extra bitterness that you're going to achieve by brewing the coffee 3 times over. For high-grade specialty coffee, brewing it once, waiting until the bubbles rise in the Cezve, and then taking the Cezve off the heat source is perfect enough. Please enjoy your coffee.